How's it going, guys? How's it going, guys? So this week on the PhantomCave YouTube channel, we're going to be talking about my favorite Phantom comics. So today, as I said, we're going to be talking about my favorite Phantom covers as a whole. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking a lot more, and we're going to delve into some other comics, have a look at some stuff, have a look at something that I got very recently, and a lot of other sort of stuff. We'll start off with the thing I got real recently, which this one, it comes from personal sort of stuff. So I got this comic, which I barely knew that I actually had it. I barely knew my family actually had one of these comics. And I hope you're liking the music this week because our this week's music is something like jazz or something. Let me get it up for you. Okay, so it's smooth jazz this week. Yeah, smooth jazz. So the comic that I am going to be talking, that the recent one that I got today, or well, in the last week or so, um, this comic, it comes from my family, so it's very what you'd call a cherished sort of item right now. I didn't even know our family actually had this comic, and I'm going to show you right now. So this comic is a it's what next, Charlie Brown. So this comic, it's from selected cartoons from Your Out of Your Mind, Charlie Brown, Volume 2. And obviously this comic, as I'm showing up on screen right now, is and was created. So this is basically Peanuts. I have a few other Peanuts books that we're going to have a look at tonight. But as you would know, Peanuts, the characters in Peanuts, the comic strip, it was basically created by Charles M. Schultz, who is amazing. A couple of years ago, around the world, there was a film that actually got made, and that was about the Peanuts. It's one of my all-time favorite films, and this book, as I will be saying, this book, I did a bit of research on it. So this book, it comes from somewhere around the 1960s. So I'm pretty sure it comes around. It was published, I think, in the 1965 or 66. So yeah, it's pretty amazing that currently right now I've got nearly a 60-year-old book, and it's it's quite amazing. I'll show you some of the pages. So because back in those days, people really with comics, I guess back in those days, many people may have not have um, cherished their comics that much or books. So that's why sometimes you see like the pages in the old comics, say like from Marvel or from old Phantom comics from like the 80s and the 70s and so on, we see a lot of pages in these old comic books. They tend to be on the brown side of, if you get what I'm saying, the brown side of life. Yes, it's cool. Um, I quite I haven't actually been through and seen what these actually in the book. I know that in the last few pages there's creased pages, if you can say that right there, creased pages, which then means that a person that actually was reading this comic from my family um, quite enjoyed this, or would they tend people like the older generation, they would say like people would then say like they would they would usually have say like they would clip the edges of the pages so that they as there was like old fashioned type of thing where they'd clip the pages. I used to do it on my books, and I don't do them ever again because it hurts the books, and it's just a pain when you have to try and flatten the corners that have been basically what's the word for it? Cornered, basically. Okay, how's it going? How's it going? Let me get your name right. How's it going, Sue? Oh, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Sorry. We're talking about this new Charlie Brown book that is from the 1960s, and one of my family members actually found it for me in a old like one of the houses and gave it to me, which is pretty damn cool. Um, Again, this comic, it's the copyright is actually from. So it's the publisher is Fawcett Crest. The copyright thing inside the book on I think the third page. Oh, that's probably coming out the other side wrong. But the copyright, which is interesting, is from 1956, 1957, 1958, 1959 by entitled Feature Syndicate. All rights reserved, including the right to reproduce this book or portions thereof. So yeah, I quite think that when I get to have a look at old books, which we will be doing very shortly, we will be having a look at some real old books that a fan sent me. A couple of months, or even before one of the Australian lockdowns that obviously had been happening since for Sydney siders it was happening since I think somewhere in July, and we're just currently in the last month or so we are basically going back. We're basically going back to normal. But yeah, it's slow, but yeah. Enough of that. Enough of that. Oh god, yes, that's great. So I'm going to show you this book. It's one of my absolute favorite covers of this year. It's done by Glenn Lubston, and you're either going to be happy about it or you're not going to be happy about it because it's got toothpaste on it. But luckily, the toothpaste is on the bag, not the actual comic. Right there. Full cover is so amazing. I'm currently reading it. I think I am somewhere around. There's a story in this comic. There's a story in this comic that actually is going to be concluded in this book, which is Giant Size Phantom issue number 18, and the story it follows on and is going to conclude the Scorpio sort of saga that has been running in the this series since I think the last couple of years. So that series it features the good old characters like the Phantom, Sir Falcon, the Shadow. Oh, who else? Sir Falcon, Shadow, Phantom, um, Catman, and a couple others. So yeah, and also the Phantom Ranger, I'm pretty sure as well. And this story, as I this story, it's done by art by Shane Foley, which is an Australian author slash comic book artist that did this story. It's an amazing story. But the only problem with these stories, and the only problem with these parts in this story is that it continues over multiple issues. It's not just a 36-page story, it continues over many issues. So I think the first issue started, might have been around issue 5 or issue around 5 or 6. It started around there. It's a, I was like a couple of years ago when this first actual story and series was actually starting. Not when the Giant Size Phantom second series started, but the Scorpio series started. I was very excited about reading these new stories that few publications were actually bringing out, and I'm still excited that they're still bringing out new stories and still delivering on the promise that there's some great stuff coming out for the Phantom fans, and they're doing a great job. They're doing like few publications, as you would know during during all the disastrous sort of stuff we've been having on, I think, in 2020 because of the pandemic. Few publications, they've been doing an amazing job with what they've been able to do. They don't have as much of their workforce right now, but they've been doing an amazing job with what they've been given and what they've been doing over the last year or last couple of years. And even if we look back at like 2016, I got it in Phantom. I know I've said this many times, but I'd like to say this again that I got in the Phantom would have been late August, somewhere early September, and from then on, few publications that is run by Dudley Hogarth, Rain White, and Glenn Ford have been doing an amazing job at keeping the Phantom published in Australia and making sure that the fans have like a reason to basically read the Phantom comics that they get published every fortnight. Another publisher that I did a bit of what you'd call promoting this book, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to do go back and promote it. You can go watch the latest news segment where I just do this promoting stuff. Like it's outrageous what I'm doing. But yeah, this book, again, a very, very good publisher. It's been doing a lot of great things for the Phantom community. It's recently it's going to be publishing, and they've already received these um, they've already received they've already received their books. So basically, DC the series that was run by DC that featured the Phantom in 1989 and into the early 90s is getting published by Hermes Press. This book is the complete Don Newton series that he did. Don Newton, this tribute to the artist Don Newton is collected here. Don Newton's collects his complete output of the Phantom comic book series created by Charlton Comics between 1975 and 77. This volume features the Charlton Phantom stories from issues 67, 68, 70, 71, 73, and 74. Also presented is a exhaustive biographical essay on the artist's career with a representative examples of his art for fanzines, comics, and illustration, as well as an interview with Newton's son called Tony. Um, well, the Hermes Price books I actually have, we've got this one, which I accidentally on the news segment, I basically said I bought this, but I got it for my birthday last year. It's a great comic, as I said on the news segment. I think the other books that I've got from Hermes Press is the reprints of. I got two books of the reprinted Avon novel series. I've only read one of them. One of the reprinted books. It's amazing. I enjoyed it, and we did a podcast on it. It's one of the most, one of the most popular podcasts on the channel. That you can access that you can access the podcast through all the major podcasting platforms, and we'll get into some other stuff. Okay, so this book is basically at the start of my journey as a it's basically the start of my Phantom journey, and it's got some great stuff. So this book is the Phantom Journal from 2016. It is back in 2016. The Phantom celebrated 80 years since being created by Lee Falk in 1936. What is amazing about this book, it has a journal, an address book, and a calendar, which is pretty cool. But what I've been doing with this book, it's got all these signatures that I've collected over this year and in 2019. We've got people like Chris Seguera, Duncan Monroe, which I met this year, I think. Yeah, I met him at Supernova this year. He's a great person. We've got Jeff Wilgley. He visited Australia in 2019. We've got Jason Paulos, all the people from a few publications. We haven't got Glenn Ford's signature yet. We've got a few of my favorites. Antonio, he's an amazing person. We've got a big supporter of the show, Jeremy McPherson. We've got Chewy Chan. He's actually going to Oz Comic Con. That's coming, I think, this December or January. We've got, as I said, Jason Paulos, Shane Foley, Grange, Paul Mason, Nicole Nicole Scott or something like that. Nicole Scott and Julie Dietrich. But also in the back of the book, we have a very good drawing by Jamie Johnson. He's an amazing bloke. Isn't he? And it has a speech bubble saying "Happy Phantom Caving" because that's my slogan. Um, Great book. Very pleased with what I'm getting. Very pleased on all the cinches and all that sort of stuff. One person I didn't actually mention was Camillo. Camillo, he's an Italian. He's a great person. Again, great person. I think I still need to get Daniel Picciotti's Cincha. Still need to get Alex Troop's one, and yeah, and a few others. Um, and if ever I go over to overseas, if I ever go to any Comic Cons overseas, I'm definitely bringing this book with me. Definitely, that's a priority. We talked about that. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, right. So these old comics were basically sent in by a fan a couple of months ago. Pardon me. So this comic, it's a back page of a Phantom comic that was published by a few publications. Look, and I've basically tried to preserve it with archive paper, I think, on the back of it, like comic book boards. Yeah, it's got an advertisement for special golden Phantom rings, which eyes that glow in the dark, which is just look at it. It's pretty damn cool. Pretty damn cool. Now, unfortunately, it's torn. Didn't do that. Still pretty good. Look at that brown paper. Ah, you'll find a lot of people when they you'll find a lot of people when they receive those old comics are like, they'll smell it. Some people say it's all right. They some people with old comics like this, they'll smell them and they'll think it's yes, that it smells good. We've got the Phantom Adventures collection. I think was published 2018, 2019. I think. It collects the original series by a few publications. This series is in a hardcover book. It's got amazing artworks by Chris Wall. It's a hardcover book. That red part of it, part there, that red part there is basically sort of a velvet felt sort of thing. The lettering on the spine is embossed, same as the little skull down the bottom and the Few logo there. Yeah, also here as well, if you can see it. Yeah, it's an amazing book because I'll run you down a bit of memory lane. So this Phantom Adventures collection series, I think it was done back. Yeah, so it's done back in 1955 and lasted 3 issues. Now this series, it's not just a plain comic book like this. It's not just a plain comic book like that. It's not just a comic book with panels. No, it's not like a comic book with panels. So this comic book, this hardcover book, it's like a literature piece of work. It's got some illustrations here and there, and it's done by Kik Effler. So Kik Effler is well, you'd call in his time, his career, he was one of you'd call the most prolific, prolific artists that was illustrating comics back in those days. And one of a few of these stories that were published, his character, the Sir Falcon character, he did a few stories that are currently being published in the Giant Size Phantom series right now in the last couple of issues. But you probably already know my opinion on those stories. That art, yeah, I don't agree with it. You can go watch the Giant Size Phantom series, that all the reviews of those books, because yeah, I'm not going to get into it. I know like to make my point, but I'm not going to get into it because I've already said it too many times. Okay, so the book I showed you before is a original copy of the Phantom number 93. Now I got this comic, I think this year or last year. Unfortunately, it's basically torn a little bit. It's got a few publication published monthly. Just so if you can see it. Unfortunately, it's got for some reasons someone's wrote me on it. It's still quite intact. It's still there. You can still read it. Like the middle pages, middle part of the spine, is still pretty good. Yeah, it's a very good book. It's very you. It would be in very all right condition considering the how old it is. Yeah, it's a good book. I think this must be something to do with thuggies, something. Okay, now we got another book, The Phantom number 643. Got this book from, I think, Canberra at one time. She was, I think in Canberra, this book was expensive. Um, Considering what I paid for it, what the condition is, you'd say it is expensive. Because if I had shown you the back page of it, I've looked at this book before in one of the other series and one of the other playlists. But the book at the back of the book is actually it's torn. It's a very big tornish page. The back page is, and it's you got to be really delicate with this book. Okay, moving on. Radio, we have another oldish book, a book that was sent in by a fan, same as the old ad. Yeah, it's amazing, still in quite good nick, considering that the front cover is torn. Well, a big torn front cover, but still quite in good nick. Paper is not that well. The condition of the paper isn't that great. Um, there's spine breakages there. As you can see, it has a huge. Can say that a huge tear and torn cover. The paper is it's very brown. The paper's very brown. It's a very brown colored paper. Okay, we're up to our last two books today. These books I got these for my birthday this year. So I I I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure if you would because I'm how do I explain this? Don't just like the Phantom. Yes, I don't just like the Phantom. I like other characters as well. As you've seen, I am trying to complete the whole Peanuts hardcover books by Canongate from the UK. I'm trying to complete all the series of Peanuts. Great book. And this is a bit of trivia for you. So, the volume launches the definitive collection of Charles M. Schulz, timeless masterpiece of comic art presenting for the very first time every script from the 1950 to 2000s. I think we're going to nearly go flat. So we have this book, as I said. Have a look through the pages quickly. Look at that. It's so good. The other book is number 2 of the series. It counts down the years from 1953 to 1954. And I hope you enjoyed this live stream. We've been looking at some great books this week. And if you haven't thought about subscribing to the YouTube channel, we try and do the best content that is to do with the Phantom every week. And like, share, comment what sort of books are you looking to get for Christmas, and what sort of books are what is your favorite cover? Yes, what is your favorite cover for this year? And as always, keep PhantomCaving, and we'll see yous on Wednesday with a new video. See you.